right, and we are live. Iron Lord Podcast, Lord Cognito here, from lordsofgaming.net. And who is this fine gentleman we have in the realm of Xbox today?
What's up, everyone? I'm Chris Esaki, creative director for Forza Motorsport.
Awesome. Forza Motorsport. This is the big one. This is a turn 10s, baby. The simulation dream for a lot of people. And I just want you to talk about the game. For people who are unfamiliar, you're releasing a new title. Tell us about Forza Motorsport, so for those who are unfamiliar to the whole racing scene.
Absolutely. So Forza Motorsport, if you're familiar with Forza at all, I think a lot of people understand what Forza Horizon is. That's pretty popular. You're the Forza Horizon guy, right?
I'm the casual.
Fair enough. Whereas on the Forza Horizon side, that game is really about exploration and beauty and that sort of road trip, if you will, right? Whereas Motorsport, it's all about skill, it's all about competition, it's about getting on tracks and proving who's the fastest. And it's just getting into a deep simulation, both from the physics side of things, vehicle dynamics, as well as a deep world simulation where you got time of day change and you got weather systems coming in and out. And so all of that world simulation is all about finding the last bit of time in every car on every track.
Awesome. And I think what simulation guys appreciate is that attention to detail with physics. And, one thing I want to ask you as far as like the changes that you made from past iterations of Forza to now in relationship to physics and realism and also AI if possible.
Yeah. The first thing we did a long time ago was look at our physics model all up, like what we needed to do to have the absolute best driving model that we could, such that we could have the best players in the world find incredible amounts of depth of gameplay at the limit, right? Making sure that there was just amazing gameplay all the time for everyone. So the first thing that we had to do is redo our tire model completely. So I think for sim fans, it's where the rubber meets the road. Forget that, right? It is the most important part for depth of gameplay is to make sure your tire model is bar none, right? So we went from a single point of contact back in the FM7 timeframe to 8 points of contact now. So the contact patch is more faithfully rendered and understood. And then we've also increased the physics model on our tire model by 6 times. So it's high fidelity, high frequency, and you have a really, really good contact patch this time around. What this means is just from a tire contact patch, it's hyper realistic, and it's just the grip levels feel realistic. It's just super authentic and really robust.
That's pretty awesome. The fact that you felt the need to kind of rewrite that to kind of improve the physics and get more of a realism. Will that help people who are also like non-controller and who just want to use like steering wheel guys? Will that help them as well?
Oh, more so than anyone else. So I think what has been great about Forza is we've had some of the best steering implementation or driving implementation on a controller or gamepad, bar none. I think the controller feel has always been great, both on Horizon and Motorsport. Where we have found additional gains in terms of gameplay and feel is with the wheel, with these new tire changes. So it feels even better on the controller than it ever has before. But the wheel has the ability to really pull out the last bits of fidelity in the tire model and all the suspension modeling to really understand the car dynamics a lot more this time around.
Pretty awesome. Another thing I noticed, as far as AI, like you guys to me are like the innovators in terms of like Drivatar and having this kind of like, AI as far as car behavior and things of that nature. What changes can we talk about there that has happened as far as the single player aspect of Forza Motorsport?
Yeah, so first, and people probably heard me say this before about AI, we've completely rebuilt the AI. And they are now as fast as our fastest human drivers, without any cheats, without any hacks, without any rubber banding. So I think a lot of players in the past would be seeing a car that's of equal power or weight or what sort of thing, and they'll just see them pull them on a straight. And you're like, why are they out? What's that? Yeah, and that's because we artificially added either things like horsepower or grip in the past to make them competitive because they couldn't drive at the level of our fastest players. What we've done, and actually not because we wanted our AI to do this, we actually sought out to make the most skill-based system around car progression, around unlocking your fastest self, and we went to this whole notion of 10/10ths. That's a notion in competition driving. That when you're driving at 10/10ths, there's nothing left in the car. You're using every bit of power and grip to get around the fastest you can. So if you're driving at 9/10ths, you're really, really close, but you still have some more time to get. So we wanted to see if we could build a system that was like, hey, we know if you're driving at 10/10ths or at 9/10ths or 5/10ths or what have you, every second of the track, right? And if we could build that would allow you as a player to figure out, oh, I'm actually a little bit slower than I thought I was. I actually have a lot of time left in this corner. I scored a 5.6 out of 10. When in these other corners I'm scoring 9s or 9.5s. I'm really close to the limit there. I got to work on this one corner. I don't know why, but I got to work on it. We're like, how do you build that system? And how do you build a system that allows you to do that for over 500 cars with hundreds and hundreds of upgrades and different ways to tune it? So the way we actually solve that is we built a system of AI that would be able to drive as fast as possible with all of those different combinations. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got our AI to be that fast, is because we needed a system that allowed players to understand how much of the car they were using. So it's kind of funny how we backed into the better AI via like that whole thing. Yeah.
No, that's actually pretty awesome. I think the thing that I noticed off the back was that how you talk about almost like the progression. It's like exchange in a sense that it's almost like an RPG now. It's like, I'm the guy that I'm really terrible at like simulation and that focus, right, of each turn, each segment. But it almost felt like the game was broke down in a way where it's like, okay, you improved on this segment here. This was your best. Like the track was almost broken up into little parts, and then I could use that as motivators to learn it and get better. So I guess the question in relation back to AI is, with that system, do you have things in place? Because I heard you have things in place kind of like a driver, let's say, for example, the way he behaves, as well as from a simulation standpoint, guys like me that might be a little aggressive and rub paint. Like, how do you factor? Are those two separated as far as the behavior of how everyone's ranked of drivers?
Yeah. So you touched on a number of things that I think are really, really interesting for people. I think the first thing is that our AI, we built our AI to be clean and safe, right? So when you're racing against the game, and our AI, our drivatars, they will try to get out of your way. They'll try to make sure, you're on the racing line. I'm gonna try to like avoid trying to turn into you. They're giving you space, which allows you to really start dialing in your speed, right? Finding how to brake, how to take those corners. Rather than really be aggressive and challenge you. Like it's not a game about crashing so much as it is about finding your fastest self, like really finding that skill. So we've dialed in the AI to be more about that, to help you as a player really find all the time and really enjoy just driving the game. The other side of it is we have things for multiplayer. If you jump into that side of things, we have things where it's a driver rating and a safety rating that helps you be match made against players that are as safe or as unsafe as you are.
So almost like a safety rating and like almost like an ELO of driver skill?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. So the faster drivers will have a faster or a higher driver rating, so like your ELO rating. And the safe... High-low?
Yeah.
Low-low? The safety rating is more just about... Hey, are you a dirty driver? Are you punting people off the track? Are you cutting the track all the time? Well, you'll be match made eventually against only drivers like that.
I was going to put my little pool with just
Okay, got you. So the cleaner, faster drivers will be put together, and even the slower, safe drivers will also be put together with all of that. Safety is most important in our game, right? And so if you are unsportsmanlike, if you're a dirty driver, you'll be mostly match made with those types of drivers, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I love that. Just the segmentation, and again, to preserve the clean racing and stuff like that, which Forza should be more associated with. Yeah. It's kind of dope. What I was going to ask is, like, first let's talk about the graphics of the game. Like, I thought the game looked really impressive. Me and King were playing it. blown away. You know, I want to talk about, we were playing actually on Xbox Series X hardware, right? So I want to talk about the modes, because I think it was like 3 different modes that you guys had set, and then also because of all the different configurations, all the different configurations that will play together. So let's talk about the console first, which I thought looked good.
Yeah, so on the Series X, we have 3 different render modes, and we've found that, you know, we defaulted people to the performance mode, which is 4K 60, and is what you guys played today. Or I actually don't know if that's what you can see.
Yeah, I played like, it was like a variant, I believe. Like it was like a little bit of ray tracing, but like
I see. Yeah, we have performance RT.
Yes,
right?
performance RT.
Yeah, so that turns on ray tracing on the track as well, so that you'll be running at 60, but you're also you also have different ray tracing abilities or capabilities. So it's more of a visual mode, but you still want 60 frames a second, right? Versus 4K 60, the performance mode is more about making sure your frame rate is at 60 and your resolution is as high as can be. Gotcha. And so, you know, we're trying to allow players to make their own decision about how they want to play. Do they want to favor, you know, resolution, or do they want to favor additional visual options? And really, it's a personal preference. Okay. I think it looks incredible either way. I just love the option to make sure that you can dial that in with 60 if you really want frame rate, you really want resolution, you want different types of graphical opportunities. That's all dial in both consoles. You can dial that in how you want.
So both Series S as well.
Yeah, you're going to have some options there as well. So we'll unveil all of the different rendering modes as well as options as we move forward.
Okay, just a quick question, because there was a third option I thought on the Series X, which was almost like a ray tracing mode, only maybe 30 frames per second, that kind of thing. So you have that, and do we know, or will it be revealed later as far as Series S?
Yeah, we'll talk. It's fairly complex in terms of all the different options that are turned on or not being used in all the different modes. We'll have a full rundown of that pretty shortly.
Sounds good. So I want to talk about the online portion, the racing, the competitive aspect. You know, you talked about the AI aspect. So I just wanted to say, like, what we played seemed to be almost like a starter cup, build you up, get you kind of a couple of qualifying races, get you into it, and then throw you in, which I thought was really cool for acclimation. So how are we handling the online portion of the game for people who want to be into competitive racing? Yeah,
so there's multiple variations or experiences within our online mode. Our major mode, a mode that we've never had before, we're calling featured multiplayer. Now, we put most of our weight behind developing that experience because we believe this is going to be the best way that people are going to experience online competition. So we talked a little bit about the driver and safety rating. That's going to be a big portion of that side of things. So in featured multiplayer, you'll be match made with your safety rating, with your driver rating. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in featured multiplayer, it's broken into 2 major areas: the spec racing side of things and the open racing side of things. So in the spec racing side of things, you have very, very balanced and tuned cars that are very competitive against each other. So no matter what car you choose, you're pretty much going to be
in that ballpark competitively.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And on the open class side of things, or the open series, it's more just about building to a specific kind of range of PI, that's what we call it, or power in the game, and you can bring whatever you want. So it's a little less balanced. It's a little more open, player freedom, creation, that sort of thing on that side of featured multiplayer. And on spec racing, it's very, very balanced and hyper-tuned. And as you mentioned, one of the major things that happen on the featured multiplayer side of things to intro you to it, we actually have a series called the Intro Series, or the Qualifier Series, which I think is a series of 3 or more races that kind of establish both your driver and safety rating, but get you used to all the new flow of qualifying and open practice and qualifying and race. As well as sort of the penalty system, our Forza racing regulation system, that is also available in Builder's Code. You need to get used to all these systems to really be successful in multiplayer.
Awesome. No, I think that's really cool. I did notice when I was driving, again, I was trying my best to drive clean. I really was, right? And what would happen is every once in a while, you do rub a little paint, and then I would notice an indicator come up, kind of say collision.
Yeah.
and it was almost like the game was judging whether or not it was legitimate in the heat of the battle or was Cognito a little too aggressive. And for the most part, it was like, no fine, no penalty. I think there was one lap I played where I knew I literally rammed into somebody. It was something I didn't follow the racing line. I was a little too much. And then it gave me a penalty. So is that another separate system on top of what we talked about, or that's part of the whole ELO thing?
Regulation system.
That is the regulation. So that's like
yes.
with the FRR or something?
Yes, it's called FRR. Yeah. Okay. So in single player, in the Builders Cup, you can actually turn that down just to track cutting, and so you can collide all you want. If you want to be crashy in our game, you can do that all you want to be a Horizon player. That's cool. That's cool. No, but for real, like it is meant to be able to tune or dial into the level of penalty system that you actually want. So if you want to have a complete, safe, clean type of race, you can push it all the way to the kind of simulation setting, or you can have it more relaxed and not really worry about collisions. But if you want to actually start dialing that in, you get a little bit more credit payout, but also you start getting used to the penalty system, right? And it'll potentially get you ready for multiplayer as well, because you're like, oh, I kind of understand what's happening here. I have better racecraft now that I'm paying attention to the other cars on track. Now, one of the things that you mentioned was really interesting. You're like, oh, is it judging me? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, because it felt like a tennis match. Oh no, just interested to see the wait for a second and then a decision on these individual things for some reason.
Truth, because what's happening as soon as you make a collision, it freeze frames and thinks about the 15 seconds or so leading up to that collision and the 15 seconds or so after that collision. And why is that? Is because there may be someone that hits you, and then you, because you started spinning out, hit someone else and caused an accident.
Yeah, right? King saw that happen to me.
And it was someone else's fault. But that's the point, is that you're like, dude, that wasn't me, right? So the game now is thinking and looking back at the history and going, oh yeah, that wasn't your fault. And so that's a lot of it, what's going on there. When it's thinking and judging you, it's actually trying to see and be as fair as possible to like really understand, how'd you get to this point in time? Was it your fault, or did someone else ram you and that's caused the incident? Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, is that also in online?
Yes, that is the major system online. So we really believe that this is going to be a real important thing, a differentiator for it, something that's really valuable for online play, to ensure that players, they're like, yeah, it's clean racing, but I'm getting penalties all the time for no reason. But this system really tries to solve a lot of that.
That is pretty awesome. I want to get to the actual namesake. Right, it seems that you didn't put a number this year, right? There's a number. So, obviously, we spoke to Dan and yourself earlier. So the question is, what's the mindset by just saying motorsport? Is it like games as a service now? Are we looking to add more things to it? Like, what's the vision this year, this time around?
Yeah, couple things. Absolutely right. From the start, what we envisioned for this new Forza Motorsport was that it would be the motorsport for this generation, at minimum, right? That we have no plans for a sequel, and that this was going to be the platform for us for years and years and years to come. That we would evolve with the community, that we would be a live, evolving thing, second by second, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and that we would be releasing cars and tracks and features and quality of life fixes and that sort of thing all the time. And this was something that we had learned from the previous game. We want to be agile. We want to be evolving with the community much quicker than we could before. So one of the biggest things that we had to do, and is actually signified by dropping the number, is that the engine that supports all of this was completely rewritten to allow us to be that agile. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is something we talked about in our intro today, the meta experience, the heart of the game. We've gone from 1 through 7, Forza Motorsport 1 through 7 was really about car collection as the way to fall in love with cars. And this time around, we've moved away from car collection. That's all well and good. We love it. But what we want to do for this new platform is car progression. Yeah. So it's all about falling in love with cars through car progression, through this whole new built not bought system. It's about leveling up cars. It's about building that deeper relationship with them. It's not about collecting all 500 of our cars. It's about having a deeper relationship with a smaller number of them.
Love that answer, because that's literally how I felt. And I'm the guy that usually is guilty of the collecting aspect in Horizon. But what I will say, I almost call it like a car RPG aspect. Again, each time I did something, there was XP, there was progression.
Yes.
Then it's like you leveled up. So it kept incentivizing me. And to your point, and then you form that kind of relationship, right? To what the vision of motorsport is. And I really appreciate that. I think the thing that first of all, this is very impressive what you guys are trying to do and just rewriting it. The question I have is in reference, again, all these different configurations of, PC, we have the Windows, we have Steam, we have Series X, Series S. So I guess, how are you manifesting, dealing with all of that? Because that's going to be a huge player pool, right? And then from a competitive, for the PC guys, I know one of the things a lot of people talk about is kind of like the frame rate. PC guys want to go all the way, but sometimes when they do that, no disrespect PC community, it puts them at a competitive advantage over console. So how are you balancing that so that everyone's kind of at a level playing field?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to have the most players that we've ever had in motorsport this time around, by far and away. And we saw incredible numbers in FM7 when we put it on Game Pass. Game Pass is a big change for us, right?
Forgot about Game Pass. That's
yeah. So yeah, shout out to Game Pass. We're going to invite Steam players into this for the first time as well, and so our player pool is going to be millions and millions and millions more players than we've ever had. And one of the biggest things is because we are trying to go after skill and competition. Yes, I understand PC players are trying to have the highest frame rate possible. In single player, it's unlocked. You can have whatever frame rate.
Good single player, go all the way.
Absolutely. What we want to ensure is in our incredibly balanced multiplayer experience that when you're on PC, when you're on a Series X, when you're on a Series S, whether you're on a low-end PC or a high-end PC, we want to ensure equal competitiveness across the board. And so that's why we've made some of the decisions that we have there.
No, it makes sense, and I totally get it. I guess the thing for me now, as far as we talked about the competitive aspect, we have to talk about some of the things that are not here, right? So one of the things is little broken heart, no spectator mode. Is that something that will eventually come? And then obviously split screen, you guys talked about not being there for Series S. So again, are these decisions that are final as far as S is split screen and spectator mode? Is that final? Or are these things that maybe could come down the road?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. One, the most important part is that none of these features that you were discussing were part of our initial vision. They didn't really map to anything that we were going to be delivering, whether it was feature multiplayer or the Builders Cup side of things. Now, one of the most important things that I will say is we have zero plans for new features after day one, after we're out there. And what I mean by that is we haven't planned anything. We're going to be releasing the game with our full vision intact about what we want this new Forza Motorsport to be. And then we're going to open the floodgates, everyone's going to be rushing in, and they're going to tell us what they need, what they want. So from day one, we'll be listening to the community and understanding where we believe the community is going and what they need, and we'll be looking at then supporting those features. They may be those features that you discussed, they may be other features. And it's really about making sure that our player base is continually happy and fed, and making sure that we are building the right game with them.
Sounds good. Well, look, Turtan, this is pretty much an undertaking, a labor of love. We can tell, the passion for cars, the sheer volume at launch. I believe over 500 almost. Obviously, the graphic guys like myself and King really appreciate how great the game looked, it drove, it felt. Last thing I would say, as far as what is the thing you're most excited about as we start to roll towards launch and people are going to get their hands on this game?
Well, number one, the cars just feel amazing to drive. I really do feel that there's night and day between this and what we've ever had before. So I just love driving in the game so much, and I know people will enjoy that. So every car has nuance, every car has individuality. So all those 500 plus cars, they all feel very, very different. And so I think that's the most important thing. But we talked a little bit earlier about this whole falling in love with cars thing and that car progression, and it's the thing that I'm just very excited that we were able to bring this time around. The passion that I have and the relationship that I have with my own cars and cars in general, that feeling, what I've experienced with cars and the community and friends that I've built around that, I wanted to make sure, and the team wanted to make sure that came through this time around. and was really the beating heart of this game.
That's awesome. This is great to hear. Again, Lord Cognito, the casual racing guy here with his perspective. But I will say, I was very impressed. I thought the game played well. It looked good. Appreciate the quick upgrade button for guys like me who don't want to go through 1,000 settings and stuff like that. That was there. And I really think you guys got something special in your hand, and we're looking forward and pulling for you guys towards launch. An absolute pleasure. The Lords of Turn 10 in the Realm of Iron Lord podcast. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
An absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.